Another Art Chrisman-driven car, the Hustler 1 represented what would have been state-of-the-art for the fuel dragsters back in the late 50s. But Greg, I see more than just Art's name on the side of this car.
Right. It was always entered as Chrisman Brothers because his brother Lloyd was involved in every race car they had. And Frank Cannon was a sponsor when people didn't have sponsors. Frank Cannon was a successful oil driller from Compton, and he put some money in the car and later on became a successful drag racer himself, one of the first to go 200 miles an hour.
Now, unlike a lot of cars that are in museums that are over-restored and really are much cleaner than they were back in the day, this car was absolutely gorgeous from day one.
Yes, it was. It was originally built as a gas car, and Art said they got the name from the B-58 Hustler bomber, which was really a big thing in about that time. He liked the name, liked the sound, liked the performance. So anyway, this was built as a gas car, and it won Best Engineered at the 1958 NHRA Nationals in Oklahoma City and appeared on the cover of Hot Rod magazine in January of 1959.
Some are for go, some are for show. If it was an Art Chrisman car, it always did both. This thing ran every bit as good as it looked.
Absolutely. In early January, Drag News tried to standardize records because the records were all over the map as far as numbers go and claims and everything else. And trying to standardize, they came up with the standard 1320 rules. And this car was the first one to have the fuel record set at Riverside in February of 1959 at 181.81 miles an hour. And ironically, Frank Iacono's car was on the same cover, and he told me that don't worry about all these other times, that 181.81 is the only one that counts.
So this car would have been a milestone car just for that accomplishment. But in March of 1959, at the inaugural U.S. Fuel and Gas Championships, later to be known as the March Meet, there was only one car that took home Fuel Top Eliminator. It was the Hustler. Now, if you look at pictures of that race, the car was in bare metal at that time. It initially had a front drive supercharger that was moved to the top, and they had a supercharger explosion that did some body panel damage. They just hadn't had a chance to repaint the car yet. So you think Art drove this for several years. It was a very successful car, and then it was retired. Its racing days weren't done yet.
No. Art drove this until 1961 when he was hired by Ford Motor Company, the Autolite division, and did tune-up work on every kind of racing you can imagine, from Indy cars to Daytona to Bonneville, or this car would have continued to be successful. But ironically enough, 3 decades later, it was instrumental in developing the nostalgia Top Fuel racing. In the early days, Art would get with the Champion Speed Shop twin, and they would smoke the tires for the entire quarter mile, and the way it used to be, and the crowd went crazy.
So this car was awesome in the 50s, it was awesome in the 90s, and you come to the NHRA Museum, it is still awesome today.